Hello and welcome to the Captain's Table, ladies and gentlemen. We're in a very festive mood today. Welcome. It's the end of IAE. Not technically. IAE goes on until the 30th, but this is being recorded on the 26th. So we still have some time left. And if you're watching this on the Monday when this releases, you will still have some time to go enjoy it. But all of the major releases and announcements have been made. We're just down to the kind of last major day of Best in Show, and then the rest of it is all kind of a nice wrap up. So we're going to talk a lot about IAE overall. For those of you who've never been to a Captain's Table before, this is a podcast where we talk about Star Citizen, just in general, and other things as well. But with that being said, let's introduce the two folks who are coming and joining us today. Mr. Tree0311, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
Hey everyone, I'm Tree0311. You may have seen me when we did the 24-hour Captain's Table for charity. And
you did twice.
Yeah. Yep, I did it twice. I did. Oh, I forgot about the second one. Yep. That's how tired I was. And I've also been on Captain's Table before. Paul and I have done at least one Lore Citizen before. Definitely need to do another one. That was fun.
Yes.
But yeah, I have two podcasts that I host. 07 to everybody who watches and listens, but I do the Pathfinders with Nazarus, who is going to be on today, but unfortunately couldn't get off of work because of holiday season. And he and I do deep dives into basically anything and everything development of Star Citizen. And so we just go through and we find something that's what we say nebulous. And we go through and we find all the information we can, and then we present it to you, the backers, so that way you can, inform your expectations appropriately, and have a better understanding of how things are coming along with the project. We also read the monthly reports and do the roadmap roundups, along with the shinytracker.app reports. If you're not looking at Shiny Tracker, not using that in order to inform your expectations, do so now. You'll feel so much better about what's going on.
It's the developers reach out to me multiple times and ask me to look at it myself, so as well do it on stream, because I don't tend to pay attention too much of the progress reports, because the progress tracker in my mind isn't really a tracker of progress. It technically is. Me and Ray have the same opinion on this one, but I get why it's important. And for those of you who don't use it, it tells you the delta, the change upon which things have happened, how much things have progressed, how much they have not. So you have a real kind of good granular idea of what is going on behind CIG's walls in terms of these things they're working on. So if you really want to figure out what's going on, you read the monthly report and then you use that tracker. So you can kind of compare them one side to side and see where they're at. So.
And Jake will tell you that the progress tracker doesn't do everything that he wants it to. It's limited in what it is able to present. And there's a whole bunch of metadata that's behind it that you don't see. And unless you use shinytracker.app, you can't see that metadata. And so it gives you a lot better understanding of what things are being worked on. The other podcast I do is Armchair Admirals and Generals. Just had our second episode a couple weeks ago. Episode 3 it's probably going to be the first in the evening on the 1st, because that's the last day we can do it before the end of the year. But Atira, Kel, and Nightcob, who will be on Captain's Table next Saturday, are my partners on that one. And we look at aspects of Star Citizen from our shared military perspectives, and just how we sort of see things, what we like and what we don't like about different aspects of Star Citizen based off of our different backgrounds from our military experience. So it's a lot of fun. Twitch.tv/Tree0311. YouTube, just do the @Tree0311 thing. Thank God they added that.
So everyone can have their own custom names rather than having to wait 100 subscribers to get that done. So
because I'm at 70 subs, so I'm almost there anyway.
Yes.
And then it's Tree0311-SC on Twitter. So if you go look at my Twitter right now, you'll see my rants from today regarding all the Galaxy stuff and ship production. So.
All right. The Armchair Generals and Admirals is a pretty cool idea. So especially if you're in the middle of the military mindset, if you come from like a military background, you can either agree or swear at Tree and crew, which is very very military anyway. So
We drink booze and talk about Star Citizen. It's fun.
yeah. All right. And next we have Mr. Astral Gemini. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
Hi, I am Astral Gemini. I'm not nearly as interesting as Trio311.
You're wearing the right shirt. You're on the
yes,
right
I
path.
am.
The pioneer.
Yeah, I'm just a dude. I play Star Citizen. I make. I've been working on making guides, like component guides and stuff for the various like starter ships. Just as resources for newer players and stuff like that. Trying to get some of that stuff out there, and then also just play the game. Usually ends up in disaster, which is kind of a meme among my chat and stuff, because I always try to play the game lawlessly, and yet I end up going to prison almost every single stream somehow.
So
It's
lawfully,
just all
yeah. So totally legal,
intentions are
legit, and then you end up in jail. Yes.
yeah,
tracks.
exactly. So yeah. So check out my my YouTube channel, just Astral Gemini on YouTube. There is a space between Astral and Gemini, which apparently still works if you type it into the YouTube bar. I
Yeah.
don't know how that works, but yeah, I post videos on YouTube, also stream on YouTube, do everything on YouTube. I also have a Twitch, but I only stream on there occasionally.
Yeah, check them out. Yeah. Let's get started with the discussions. Let's talk about the new ships that just came out for IAE. We got the Cutter, we got the C8R, and we got the Galaxy, which is in concept. Two of them going straight to flyable, then the Galaxy was a concept. Astral Gemini, your thoughts? Did you last time talk about it? What's your thoughts on those three ships? Goods, bads, that kind of stuff.
Oh, right. Oh, which one do you want me to start with?
Whichever one you want to start with.
All right. Let's start with the Cutter.
Okay. You did do those new starter guides. It's a perfect ship to talk about.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I love the Cutter. I I think the Cutter might actually be my favorite starter ship now. I think it's just a fantastic little ship. It's really, really good looking and kind of like a chunky kind of way. It flies fine. I think the things that make it really great for a starter ship is the fact that it doesn't have very many components, and most of the ones that it has are like good enough to work. So getting it there's not a whole lot that you need to change out in order to make it like to bring it up to spec, and because it has so much fuel, you can spend all the money that you save on, not having another shield, not having very many guns. Just put it all into getting just like the fastest quantum drive you can, because it has so much fuel that you can get that quantum drive and use it without repercussions, because you can make it across the verse. I think it's I believe with the is it the XL1, I think, is the fastest one for that size. I believe you can make it across like all the way across Stanton 4.78 times before needing to refuel with that drive, which is pretty crazy for a ship that small.
Chad is also mentioning that the fuel is a bug, but they've even said, CIG has even said in its in their statement that they want it to have the most quantum fuel out of any of the other starters. So that makes sense.
Yeah, and it'll probably change, but as of right now, it's probably the best runabout in the verse. It's got plenty of room, living spaces, a bed, a toilet, everything like that. So yeah, I really like the Cutter. And then the Corsair, which is also new. Corsair is interesting. I think that I ran a poll on like the YouTube community posts thing to see people's feelings on the Corsair, and they were pretty divided. Most people said that they really liked it, and I believe a lot of people also said that they thought it needed to be nerfed. I don't think it needs a nerf because the handling is bad enough that it kind of offsets that insane frontal firepower that it has, which is absolutely insane frontal firepower. I think probably the best frontal firepower for a ship, at least for like the amount of people that it needs to crew it. Especially if you load the pilot guns up with like ballistic Gatlings, you can just tear through things. So that's pretty cool. But it does have some flaws, which are the like back half of the sides of the ship, the rear of the ship, and especially the bottom of the ship are almost completely unprotected because the way that the turrets are placed just gives it really, really poor protection in those areas. So as long as you're not directly in front of the ship, you should be fine, which I think gives it a really interesting role as like the pirate ship, right? Because I think a lot of people were thinking it
Exploration
would,
ship.
yeah,
Exploration.
exploring other people's cargo bays is
Yes.
what we say, or other people's organs.
Exploring other people.
Gonna go find points of interest in your stuff.
Yeah. But I think a lot of people are concerned that it'll just be kind of like the be all end all like combat ship.
Mhm.
But I think it fills a really interesting role where it's probably going to lose to any competent pilot in any ship that is more maneuverable than it. Because aside from the frontal firepower, like the turrets only have twin size 2s, and just the way that the turrets are placed have pretty poor coverage anywhere that isn't the front of the ship. But any ship that is bigger and slower than it is probably going to be a cargo hauler.
Yeah.
Which is the kind of ships that you'll probably be mostly targeting in the Corsair.
It bullies
And
cargo
so,
haulers. Yeah.
So it kind of it kind of incentivizes if you are going to be in a cargo hauler. Now that the Corsair is in the verse, that thing is going to be extremely powerful to for pirates to go and take out those cargo ships. You might want to start thinking about maybe getting a fighter escort or two, especially if the Corsair isn't crewed. It loses like completely all defenses to the sides and the rear as well. So I think that's really neat. It's got some interesting features on it too. I like the elevator. I like the levers that actually like pull when you pull them.
Push
I like
him,
the elevator
flick.
that goes up to the roof where there is no gravity. So if the ship is moving at all, you just fall off and die. That's pretty funny. Yeah,
For getting up onto the roof. When do we get our Hawaiian shirts and our flip flops and our folding chairs to go hang out up there and have ourselves, a fruity cocktail?
Yeah, there's a feature that someone pointed out on one of my streams, which is there is an MFD panel on the floor.
Yes.
which actually functions. So that's a neat touch. Gives it the whole thing. It's very Drake. I think it's the most Drake ship in the game that we have right now.
Oh yeah.
And it's fantastic. Just like visually, it's a great ship to be in. It really feels like just a massive piece of shit, and I love it. It's not a ship. I feel like it's not a ship that I would pull out as like a daily driver, just because it's so big and slow and kind of cumbersome to drive, and it doesn't have all that much cargo capacity. But when you just want to go and like blow stuff up, the Corsair is just fantastic for that. So there's kind of my thoughts on the Corsair. Sorry, I've taken up half the podcast.
You're good.
Already.
Keep going. We got plenty of. This is what this podcast is about today. It's basically ships. So,
yeah.
How about the C8R?
Hits all the points. I sit here and drink.
Yeah. What about the C8R?
The C8R. I love the C8R. I love the Pisces. I've always loved the Pisces. I think the Pisces is a great little ship, and the C8R I think is the best Pisces that we have now. I love the little lights on the exterior. I love all the new paint jobs they gave it. I love that interior space that they have, which the Pisces is such a small ship, but the interior is shockingly roomy. Like the amount of stuff that they've been able to fit in that, like it's got a tier 3 med bed, it's got like a sink, it's got a little like kitchenette fridge thing with food and free med pens, free drugs. It has free drugs in it.
Drugs.
like it's and it still has one of the jump seats that you can have a medic come with you, for the pilot, and it's still a Pisces. It's still tiny. It's a snub ship. You can fit it in so many places that most other ships wouldn't be able to fit, just because it is so tiny but still has a quantum drive. I really love the Pisces. I think the C8R is fantastic. I know that there are some people in my Discord who have been just super excited for that ship to come out because it's just so much more convenient to pull out for like medical purposes than like a Cutlass Red or a Carrack or an 890 Jump, which up until now have been the only medical ships that we have. It's just really nice to fly. It's adorable. Yeah, I really like the C8R. I think it's a fantastic idea. It kind of caught me by surprise because out of all the ships I would have expected to get a medical variant, the Pisces was not one, just because it is so small. But now that I think about it, it makes sense. It's just a teeny tiny little ambulance. It's great.
What are your thoughts on the Galaxy from what you've seen so far?
The Galaxy. All right.
Okay, this is where it gets negative.
So this is not negative. All right. So I just my instinct is always to let out a great big sigh whenever CIG mentions anything about modularity.
Yeah.
Because to me it feels like they talk about modularity and then try to do everything they possibly can to avoid modularity. Mm-hmm. So whenever something new that has modularity gets announced or introduced as like concept or stuff, I always think, oh, there's another ship that's not going to come out for 10 years because modularity is such a big thing that they need to figure out, right? Obviously the concept of modular ships is cool, but the just the actual implementation of it, I'm not sure is going to happen really anytime soon. I know there have been like rumors that the Galaxy is actually in active production, but I guess we'll have to see stuff like that. I know the Retaliator, the Carrack, the Caterpillar is supposed to have some kind of modularity, and then obviously the Endeavor, but it just feels like that's whenever something that has modularity in it is announced, it always feels like something that's a lot further away in the development pipeline than just like another ship. Like if they had announced the Galaxy and just said, hey, there's going to be like 3 different variants of it, then I could be like, oh, I could see those variants being released within like a couple of years, something like that. But with modularity added to the picture, I feel like it just makes it so much more complicated. And I think there's a lot of people that kind of share that sentiment that modularity is just one of those things that like they're like it's a really cool idea in theory. But the actual implementation of that just feels like it's years and years and years down the line for even like a tier 0 implementation of that. So, but as far as the Galaxy itself, I think it's a neat looking ship. I really like that triangular look. Obviously, people love the Perseus because it looks like a mini Star Destroyer, and the Galaxy has that same, very similar shape to the Perseus. It's a spicy space Dorito.
Spicy space Dorito. The funny thing is that I was actually looking at all of the ships that are the capital ships for CA or that for RSI, all except for the Bengal are space Doritos. The Perseus, the Pisces, or the Perseus, the Polaris, and now the Galaxy. So anything that's bigger than a constellation is a space Dorito, or space triangle.
Yeah.
And I think they're all
like
been
triangles.
developed by Gavin. So they're all developed by the same person. He just Gavin, why do you like triangles so much? That's the question.
Gavin's favorite food is stateside guacamole.
Because it's not a square.
Because it's not a square. All right.
I could listen to Gavin talk about ships all day long.
He's so
space.
passionate. Yes.
We got to have more space in our spaceship.
Yeah.
That's in space.
Yeah. But and he has a fantastic beard.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the Galaxy is really cool. I think it'll be interesting to see how it actually performs, because I think for a ship of its size, it's definitely under-shielded and under-gunned, I would say. Compared to the Carrack, which people have kind of been comparing as like its competitor. It has one fewer turret and one fewer shield. But it does have that really cool rear-loading hangar bay, which that'll be cool to see how that works. And then obviously the modular piece in the middle, which can be either a cargo bay, a med bay, or a refinery station at the moment, I believe. The question that a lot of people in my Discord have been asking today, though, is they also were selling like the standalone. And then there's like the cargo module, the medical module, and the refinery module. What is in the middle of the standalone? What's in the middle there? We don't know. Is it just a hole? Is there?
I think it's just going to be a giant hole in the ship.
It's just a big giant empty hole. That would actually be kind of funny to see.
That not only would be funny, but I think it'd be cool, because I think people, once they had something like jetpacks or parachutes, people will start using that thing, the empty hole, as like a place to jump out of, because you can jump through the hole, because there's a door that goes from the hangar to that section, so you can just open up the door, and then everyone just jumps out through the center as they parachute down to the planet.
The amount of clips and videos for all the new players who don't know that, and then they're like, "Oh, this ship's amazing!" Open door, run, sprint right out. Whee!
Yeah, just
why didn't you tell me you were running
a bunch of them? Line up a bunch of them from like atmosphere all the way to like close to the ground, and you have to dive through and see how many you can get through. Earn points, make it a mini game, something like that. That would be
the racing rings.
Yes.
Yeah, I could see that. That could be really fun. But it's a neat looking ship. I do think that it's kind of a shame that you have to kind of like pick between like medical or like cargo or refining, because we have the Carrack, and the Carrack has a ton of cargo but also has a medical bay. I don't think it has a refinery in it, but you kind of get both those things, whereas in the Galaxy, which is I think it's 16 meters shorter than the Carrack, you only get to pick one.
Yeah, it's 110 meters, so it's about the same size. It's actually smaller than the Hammerhead.
Yeah, so Hammerhead is 115, I think.
120. It's like 120.
Is Hammerhead 120?
Yeah, long.
It's like 120, 125.
Okay. Yeah. I think the Carrack is 126.
Yes,
but
they're both like right there.
Yeah. It's like 60 meters, or it's like 60 tall, and it's like 80 across, something like that. So it's like about half the size. It's about the same length, but about half the height of it.
Carrack is 74 wide and 30 tall.
30 tall, yeah, because it's like 20 tall, I think is this. So it's about half, 2/3 of the height of the Carrack, and then its weight is like 60 or 40 or something like that. So it's just slightly smaller, about the same length, but just about like shorter and such. So
it is a gorgeous looking ship. I really like the look of that. I think the biggest thing that it kind of hinges on is the implementation of modularity. And I wouldn't mind if they would release it as, as like just like the cargo version and then put modularity on it later, because that's kind of what we have with the Carrack, the Caterpillar, etc. And people love those ships, so I wouldn't mind that.
The famous Retaliator, which is the base, which is a bomber now, but the base when you get it will have nothing in there. So
Yep.
So, all right, now Tree. It's your turn to go through the list. Do you want to start with the galaxy and then move your way backwards? So, because I know
let's work our way from smallest to largest.
Okay, so C8R.
Yeah, C8R. We'll try and keep it brief too. I love the C8R. 0311 is my first MOS. I used to be a Marine infantryman, but ever since getting out, I've been a career paramedic and flight paramedic. So I love the C8R. It's adorable. And I love how clean the inside looks. And you can definitely tell looking at it that it was the people who made it totally looked at a bunch of images of European ambulances because it's a very clean and efficient use of space. It looks very white and sterile, very easy to move around in. They took that and like, okay, how do we make this work inside the C8R? And so I really appreciate that from the for the devs who made it. And I love that they kept a jump seat because it totally plays into what I think medical gameplay and SAR type gameplay will be like, in that, the medical bed does have limited auto function, and it will be able to keep a person alive for a certain period of time so you can get them to the hospital if it's just you in the C8R. But it'll be, I think it'll be kind of like mining where, okay, that'll keep them from dying, but they'll still be in like the red. If you have someone else back there, they can manage the med bed and either, depending on how good they are, get them from red to orange, yellow to green. And that will be what decides your payout as far as doing the mission, in order to give you a reward for bringing in an extra person for actually participating in medical gameplay versus, put the, person in the med bed microwave and set to 3 minutes.
Set to heal.
The paints are also really great, and that they actually made it, in response to the other C8R, Karen drama. Will you be able to get, how can we can't put this paint on the other one? They cleared that up. All the paints, that you can buy will be applicable to all the C8s, which is awesome. And I like that they've got one that looks, they've got ones that look like American ambulances. They've got ones that look like European and, Aussie, Kiwi ambulances, and so I really thought that was really well done. I absolutely love the cutter. My only gripe with the cutter is that you go into the living space and you have to turn left and then turn right into the door into the bathroom, instead of just turning the bathroom 90 degrees. So you just immediately turn left, there's a door, you go into it, and then using that hollow space that you had to turn left into to then turn right into the bathroom. I feel like that is the only inefficient use of space in that ship. And I'm like, why didn't they just put a armor suit rack in there? Because if it, that's the only way that ship could get better as a starter, is if it's got, armor storage or armor suit storage.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's a fantastic ship. The paints look great on it. I love all the little greeblings and the details, the way they talked about how it, it flies. And I've only barely gotten to use it because it's Thanksgiving week. But it doesn't handle well, but it does pretty well in a straight line, and even with the fuel adjustments, I think it has a really solid place in the starter lineup. And Paul, you were talking about it with Space Tomato about like starter ships and stuff on the last launch sequence podcast. And I really think that it's a really good signal of what the other starter ships will, the feel for them when they go back and bring them up to standard. I think it's a really good indicator of what the starter ship lineup will be with just, as far as variation goes. And so I love it. I absolutely grabbed it for my 0 to hero account. And I don't have anything to add to the Corsair because you absolutely nailed it, Astral. Everybody's worried about, oh, they're going to nerf it like the Ares. I'm like, the Ares has a bespoke gun.
Yeah.
No other ship has that gun. And so all you're doing is nerfing the Ares if you touch its gun. If you nerf the Corsair, you would have to go back and change the item port size, the hard point sizes or something, or because you can't just adjust the guns because the guns are the same ones that everyone else uses on their ships. So I think it's super safe from getting nerfed because it has lots of vulnerability. Even with because it went to 2 size 3 shields, right? Yeah.
The Corsair.
Yeah. Didn't it used to have just one, and now it's 2?
One. No, it used to have 2 size 2 shields.
Oh, okay.
It now has more shields than one size 3. So it has more shields. I was very worried about it when it was getting close to release and it still said 2 size 2 because I was like, on a ship that big, 2 size 2 is not sufficient.
Yeah.
Compared to the Connie and other stuff.
Crazy.
For sure.
Like the MSR can get away with it because the MSR handles like a dream.
Yeah, totally. I think it's well balanced with the forward facing loadout that it has, but a lot of defensive void space and lack of maneuverability. And like you said, if you don't bring it like 2 fighters as escorts, you can very easily find yourself in a real bad way with that thing. And so I think it's a great ship. I love all the little details in it. I think it's got a lot of versatility. Not a daily driver, but as far as daily multi-crew, being that 3-4 people is like the optimum multi-crew experience, the optimal co-op experience. I think it's fantastic in that role. Paul, again, to piggyback on what you and Space Tomato were talking about, because I was literally just listening to that podcast on my run like 2 hours ago. But like if you look at co-op games, every co-op game, it's 4 people. Because that's the sweet spot of getting, whether it's a pickup group or the amount of people you can get in your org or your Discord together to play a game. Yeah. It's 4 people. Corsair, 4 people, perfect. 3 to 4 people, you're great. The Galaxy. So when they released the C8R, I had already heard about it, and I was like, oh yeah, well maybe it'll be this IAE, maybe it won't. And when they released that, and I was like, oh, they're going to release the C8R and the Galaxy, and flight paramedic Tree got just unreasonably excited because of the and I got the leaks just like everybody else, and I saw the thing from Xylo, and I was like, yeah, that is pretty not cool. And it sounds like that person got fired in a big way, but I gotta give credit where credit's due. So far, everything from the leaks has been accurate.
Yes.
And,
except for the different variant of the cutter, which is the one that I think was the
oh, sorry, just the Galaxy. Yeah. Sorry, just the Galaxy leak. Yeah. But so far, everything that was leaked about the Galaxy, regardless of the way it was obtained, has been accurate. And so hospital module with a hangar and a C8R coming out, and I like and to not incur the wrath of the cult of the Endeavor, but it's the Endeavor, regardless of how big or not as big you think the Endeavor is going to get, it's going to be a capital class ship and a big one, and it's going to have a much larger crew than what it was initially concepted as. And for me, wanting to do a lot of medical gameplay and providing medical support in places like Pyro, Nyx, because they leaked, that was part of the leak, gameplay to support, and then the ISC, gameplay to support systems. They say lawless, but what they really mean is systems without infrastructure. Yeah. And to me, that's my gameplay dream is, 4 to 6 people going out and providing medical support. And you can do that with a Galaxy and a C8R. And, that is everything that I've wanted. So that was an insta buy for me. I absolutely love that thing. I have a couple questions that have gotten asked in the Q&A, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. But otherwise, I think it's a really solid addition and a really solid concept release for CIG compared to some of the other ones that haven't gone as smoothly.
Looking at you, C1.
Spirit. so far everything seems to be pretty accurate. And otherwise, very few questions about it. I love the look, and I think it's just going to be great for what I'm looking to do. And I know a lot of people will think the same way, whether they're using it for cargo refining or something else. As for the modularity, so I'm going to throw a lot of some really ice cold water from outside my house here in Idaho. Modularity is not this big difficult thing that everybody thinks it is. Would you like to know more? Go back and watch episode 1 of the Pathfinders podcast, because we did a big old deep dive in this. And the only thing that modularity is waiting on is for PES to be done, so that way the engineers who are working on PES can do a light refactor of the ship object container system, so that way item ports in those object containers stream in and out with the object container. So if you look at the best way to explain this, if you saw the salvage videos where they were salvaging, I think it was a C2 and an 890, and they move the cursor across the different sections of the ship. And then it shows you a line as you move over to this next section, and now you're looking at the health of this part of the ship or that part of the ship. The ships are broken up the ships are made like Legos, more like Duplo, really. Yeah, each piece, each section is its own object container. And what happened is the item ports for things like weapons, torpedoes, in the case of the Retaliator, everything that attaches to the ship, those are attached to the ship. They're not attached to the item port. And so all they have to do is go back and make it so that way the item port system functions with the ship object containers. So that way, if you take it to Cousin Crow's and they're going to swap one module for another, the game will stream out that ship object container, that has your cargo module in the galaxy, and then stream in the medical module, and all the item ports within those different modules will stream out and in with them. Because otherwise you end up, the way John Crew explained it is with the Retaliator, what would happen is if they did it right now, the item ports for the torpedoes would still be there, and the torpedoes wouldn't go away. And so you'd have a dropship with a bunch of Marines, sitting in the dropship seats. And if you went and reloaded the damn thing or repaired it, all of a sudden you'd have torpedoes land in their laps. Yeah. And it's not a huge lift in order to get it working. And I think that's why they are releasing the concept for the Galaxy, because they know that with PES done, they can get the work done for modularity. If it isn't done already, it'll be done soon. And then ship devs can go back and make the modules and literally swap them in, swap them out. Because the ship object containers and the way they build ships is already there. They've been doing it that way for a long time. So yeah, the shameless plug, but that's what we do on Pathfinders podcast, is deep dives on that stuff. We did a deep dive on drones for the same reason, because there's a whole bunch of information out there. If you don't watch every video 5 times and read everything 5 times, you miss stuff.
Yeah. It also I also like to also add on to that is that CIG are engineers and technical people, and often when they speak past you, because they don't know how much you know. They don't know how much you understand of their architecture. They don't know how much you understand about their So a lot of times they'll speak about something and people will not pick up on what they said because it's something that goes over their head. How CIG talks about it. Here's an example. No one at Star Citizen, no one at CIG calls Squadron 42 or S42. They call it Squadron. So whenever you hear them talk about Squadron, they're talking about Squadron 42. But if you don't know what Squadron 42 is, you may not know what they're talking about, simply because that's just their nomenclature, their jargon that they use inside the office, and how they talk in the inter-office communications. Whenever you hear them say Squadron 42, you know they're talking to the general public, because they know they're going to be talking to people, and that the people they're listening to are not going to do that. That's just a small example of the kind of things they talk about, which you can often talk past you. I will say, the Pathfinders podcast is fine. Just remember that it's very long. I think some of them are like 4 hours long.
If you
it's incredibly in depth. So, yeah.
in depth. And then if you don't want to listen to it, you can go to the description in the YouTube and just go to the show notes and read the stuff we're talking about. Because we make the show notes. So everything that I'm reading or talking to you about in the podcast is in written form somewhere else. All I'm doing is regurgitating the stuff that we have found from CIG with a little bit of subjective opinion at the end.
Yeah. All right. I'll go over my list. The cutter is an ugly piece of shit, and I love it. It is a shitbox, and we needed a shitbox starter. It's a shitbox starter. It's exactly what you need for a shitbox starter.
It's fantastic.
It's the most Drake thing that ever's draked next to the Corsair. For one thing, in reality, people talk about how John Crew hates Drake. He doesn't hate Drake. He just thinks Drake is ugly, and he understands the aesthetic of Drake, which is it's ugly, it's utilitarian, it's garbage, but it's cheap garbage, and that's why people love it.
Unless it's called the Cutlass Steel, then it's expensive garbage.
It's expensive garbage. The Cutlass Steel, I will fight to the death to say that the Cutlass Steel is the most Drake thing that is ever released, simply because it is overpriced. It is basically just taking a bunch of jump seats and welding them to the back of a Drake and a Cutlass, and then slapping some guns on that thing. It is entirely ad hoc. Some inverse. Some engineer, got drunk with two other engineers and came up with it. Probably ex-Marines were just like, let's just do this. Fuck it, why not? And then just assembled it in a night. And then Andon Arden walked in and was like, sell that thing. How much did that cost you? This. Mark it up 200% and sell it on the market tomorrow. We're good. It's that. But
Andon Arden, big fan, by the way. I really like the addition of an additional CEO to the lineup. On screen.
He's great. I love that. But it's overpriced as shit, and it's terrible pricing on CIG's part, but perfect otherwise. But I'll talk about the Corsair as well. The Corsair has always been a ship that I've been looking forward to, not as oh my god, it's a great ship, I can't wait for it, but I always looking forward to it because it is an example of how Drake does ships and how your average person will experience that sort of exploration thing. Because the thing that a lot of people don't understand is that yes, it explores other people's cargo holds, but it also has an insane amount of range for its size and has some really decent things. It's got a table.
Yeah,
like it's got a picnic table. Like that's one of those things. It's basically a table from the Caterpillar, but it's the same kind of it's got a table.
Yeah.
How many ships have a table? And that kind of shows you the planning that this ship is designed to do. It's designed to go way out there. It's not coming back for weeks, months, years at a time. It's going to go out to a place and it's going to stay there and be there for whatever reason. Maybe it's exploring, maybe it's exploring other people's cargo holds. It doesn't matter. It's just, it's a long range sort of ship. And it's the kind of ship that you need to have for something like Pyro, which is 3 times the size of Stanton when it comes to its just circumference. So just travel is going to take a long time. And so I think that's what really emphasizes that, that distance is going to be a thing in the future.
Well, it's nice to get Drake ships with interiors that are modern designs, because the Cutlass. Because the only Drake ships we've had that actually have interiors until now have been the Cutlass and the Caterpillar, which are both old.
Yeah, and the Herald, but the Herald's also old.
Yeah,
people forget that Herald exists.
I completely forgot the Herald exists. I'm gonna be honest, but just seeing the Cutter, the Corsair, and the Vulture, which I'm also very excited for. Just completely terrible interiors. But they're so much more detailed and make more sense than the ones we have. So hopefully at some point in the future we'll also get just a polish pass on those older Drake ships to bring them up to a modern standard.
When it comes to C8R, it's perfect. No notes. It's perfect. The only thing it makes me want now is I want an Ursa that is an ambulance. That's just
Well, especially since they showed it in the concept art for the Galaxy, and it's got a lift perfectly sized for an Ursa.
For an Ursa,
You know,
yeah.
medical
Yeah.
Ursa.
Medical
Do it
Ursa.
now.
Maybe there will be a
Especially-
medical variant of the Lynx, because they're also working on that.
They're working on the Lynx right now. Yeah. Do it.
And when it comes to the Galaxy, I agree. I know Gin and Tonic's in chat and we had a conversation about this. I agree with everything that Tree said. I just don't think it's going to be a very valuable ship for most people in the professions that they want. So, like, for instance, the medical variant is great. It's perfect. It's the C8R is 100% designed to work with the Galaxy. They came up with those two things at the same time. It's obvious they came up with those at the same time. Like the hover quad and the Nomad, like the Ursa and the Constellation, they were designed together. I just think that there are more efficient ships for those roles. The Expanse, the Apollo, like they all are more efficient in terms of size. The thing that makes the Galaxy unique is that the Galaxy is a Swiss Army knife. Yes, you want to be run a rural hospital at the back of your ship? Perfect, boom. But then your buddy's like, hey, I got a bunch of friends together. We're going to go mining. You'd be like, cool, I got you, fam. Slap on a refinery. Now you're an industrial refinery ship. You swapped out your C8R for an Argo MPUV, and you're running stuff everywhere, and anything you want to do. That's its secret. It's gameplay, and they've even hinted at things like the
secret
manufacturing
sauce.
module. Yeah, it's the manufacturing module. There's literally nothing they couldn't do with that. The same thing. The reason why on the Inforunners, we'll always talk about how the Caterpillar is a sleeper, because we don't even know the modules that the Caterpillar will have in the future, and that's going to make it much more diverse and interesting as you add modulars to the game. And I get the people's kind of concerns about modularity. We know that modularity is being worked on. And as Tree said, generally speaking, he's right about that about that stuff. It's also, if you
they did everything they needed for it to get it to work for Squadron 42 already.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are. They haven't forgotten about it. I promise.
The other thing that they did was they need to have that interior item port working for resource management, because they need to have the resource management system working for that to happen as well, because you could have, it's part of the same system. So that's kind of the two sides of that same coin. Let's move back. I'll have you start this one, Tree. Overall, your thoughts on IAE this year, and I'll be right back.
I've only gotten to see the show floor like 2-3 times now out of the whole thing, just because of scheduling and the holidays. I think it was an ISC where they were before. I forget which one, but they did talk about how they did a whole bunch of work on the IAE show floor in order to update it, bring it to a higher level, a higher standard. Make things work more functionally as far as lighting bugs and the quality of the lighting, the sound. One thing that someone, I think it was in Paul's Discord, mentioned is that the commercials that play on the various TV screens are the right commercials for the day, the ship manufacturer day. And that's like, it's a little thing, but it shows a level of detail that I think is really great. That being said, and again, I'm going to piggyback on a thing that Paul was talking about before on a recent captain's table, is if you are, old man backer and you've been to IAE every year for years, you've seen 90% of the ships, and there's literally nothing new. So I went to the show floor to see the cutter and the corsair. And I went to the show floor to see the C8R, and that's been it for me. And so it doesn't really offer, IAE doesn't really offer that much to old man backer. I do think that, and I'm not going to go on a rant repeating what Zark said, but I do think that they do need to add more to the event. So whatever that system's called that manages the events, whenever they click button to turn on IAE, I do think they need to add more to it so that way there's gameplay associated with it, like they do for Invictus Launch Week, in order to get people like me to come in besides just to go look at the show floor, because it doesn't hold much allure to me. The only other thing I do different, and it's not going to happen next year, and maybe it'll happen the year after, is when are we going to get a new IAE location?
Yeah.
And yeah, I want IAE on Sherman. That's all I care about at this point. Even if they redo the whole IAE thing for Lorville 2.0, okay, it's still Lorville. As much as I'm looking forward to new Lorville, it's still Lorville. We've still been there. I'm looking forward to seeing a IAE location at a new satellite location.
The actual location is supposed to be in, like Sherman,
Severus. I want to go to Kiel and see the Rio Grande one on that giant tarmac that they have in the concept art, where it's just an old airport as far as you can see with nothing but IAE ships, and
and then or even Magnus. I'd love to see Drake host a Magnus one on Berea.
Oh man. Welcome to our home. Watch out for the needles on the ground.
Step over the couple of the half passed out drug addicts and keep moving. Don't take tours.
They're working on the hobo AI for the game, so it's going to be a thing.
How about your thoughts on the Jax videos in general? Have you watched those at all?
Oh God, gosh, I can't believe I forgot about that. Yeah, so good. Those are so much fun. And I'm not going to spoil this last one if you haven't seen it, but go see it right now. But literally, I panicked out loud in front of my family during this last one, because I was like, "No, we can't get hurt!" And it was so good. The only concern I have is, what do they do to top it going forward? Because I think these are fantastic. Every day you get a 1 minute little clip to follow this saga, and okay, you can do that again next year. Sweet, fun. But they're always trying to take things to the next level every year. In my opinion, I think that's a tall order to be like, okay, how do we one up this? How do we one up ourselves next year?
Yeah. AstralGemini, your thoughts overall with IAE?
I think IAE has been pretty fun this year. I definitely think it's been a little more exciting than last year. Obviously, we've got the Whitley's Guide stuff that has been kind of ramping up in excitement and stuff. So that's been really cool, because last year we only got like 3 or 4 videos total of the Whitley's Guide throughout IAE. So it's been nice to get a different one every day, having something kind of tangentially to do with the manufacturer that has that is there that day. And I also like the Drake sponsored IAE going into, because last year it was all just blue and white, which everything in Microtech is already blue and white. But walking in and seeing everything be like the black and red Drake colors is a nice change. I think just visually it's a lot more striking and more impressive than it was last year. I feel like some days of IAE are more impressive than other days. I think Origin and Aegis definitely have the best displays, just because you walk in and there's just that enormous ship. Like, they've got the Reclaimer right there in the middle on Aegis Day, which is just gigantic. It takes up the whole room. And the same with Origin, the 890 jump, just towering over the entire room. And then you walk in on like RSI Day, and it's just like 4 constellations and some auroras, and you're kind of like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Neat. So I think I don't know. I feel like some manufacturers just don't have like enough stuff, and that'll change as the game evolves and goes forward, and as more ships come out. But I feel like it would be nice for like every manufacturer to have like at least one like really big ship in the game that can be kind of like a centerpiece for their display. Give it that wow factor, because even me, like I own an 890 jump, I own a reclaimer, I've flown in them countless times, both. But just walking in, but it's different being like flying it around in space than walking into a hall and having a bunch of other smaller ships next to it and just seeing the sheer scale, how absolutely colossal those ships are inside this hall. And I think that like other manufacturers could really do have something like that. I mean, like Anvil has the Carrack, which is also pretty big. It's not quite as big, but it's still pretty impressive. But like I said, RSI has pretty much nothing. Drake last year only had like the Caterpillar as like the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And then just like 4 Cutlasses. The alien ships are all pretty small, like the biggest one that we have flyable being the Prowler, but that's still pretty small. So I'm really hoping, and I know that people at CIG, if they hear me say this, they're going to be like, no way, what are you talking about? But I feel like I personally would like just like instead of like 10 like small ships released in a year, I think I would be happier with just like 4 like really big ones, because
Yeah.
I like big ships. I just think that
You
the
can't-
way
you li-
that
you
Star
like big
Citizen
ships and you
does-
cannot lie. Is that
yeah,
what you're
I like
saying?
big ships and I cannot lie.
I'm the other brother who
um,
can't deny.
but I think that one thing that Star Citizen does so well is like, because we can walk around the ships, we can get out on the planets, we can walk around inside them. It does such a great job at selling the scale of those ships, and there's not really any other game that does that. And there's plenty of games that let you get in like a plane or a fighter and fly around and shoot things pew pew, or race. But I feel like Star Citizen is the only game that lets you get in these just absolutely colossal ships and fly them around. I feel like for me and for a lot of other people, having seen videos of these massive ships with the detailed interiors and stuff like that is what drew me to the game in the first place. And so I feel like even though it might take more development time, we need more ships like that. And I know that in the Star Citizen Live a little while ago, they said that they were trying to decide if they were gonna like keep working on the Bandit Merchantman or shelve it for a while. But I think they really should. We need another great big ship like that in the game. Also, give us the Idris and the Kraken, please.
How about your thoughts
Please.
on the Jax videos? Have you comment on that?
I love them. I love them so much. I mean, I've been a big fan of Top Gear since I was a kid. And the Whitley's Guide it's space Top Gear. It's fantastic. So seeing these little episodic little moments has been really, really great. And I think the other thing that they've done really well is kind of showing off the like people and cultures of Pyro, and kind of showing off, because a lot of people think, oh yeah, Pyro is just full of violent criminals and stuff like that. But I think we've seen, through Jax's eyes, there are some people who are very violent. There are some people who are very friendly and are just, they live in this lawless system, but they're just kind of doing their best to survive and help each other and stuff like that. And so
When he was in that bar, all I could think is like, I've been there. That's in Thailand. I swear to God.
Yeah. With the two people just arguing over just absolute dumb shit and trying to going out to go kill each other. Yeah.
Oh, and I can't wait to get my little Thorshoe crabs and put them in the tank in my hangar and feed them stuff.
Fun fact: that is entirely accurate with the Thorshoe crabs. The Thorshoe crabs are incredibly territorial, and the way that they mark their territory is they have these very shiny. They collect shiny things and attach it to themselves. So then they make themselves as bright as possible. So, because Thorshoe crabs will, when they're pets, they will climb out of the tank and just go fuck up like good china and shit like that, because they think it's another crab that's trying to they'll attack like random electronics because they think it's another crab that's trying to get in his territory. So a bunch of Thorshoes just getting inside of a mule or a raft and just ripping things apart makes total sense. So
if that could be a thing associated with a probability volume on certain planets, where like if you park your ship for too long on this planet, or this region biome of this planet, there is a chance that Thorshoe crabs will come and start causing
Nibbling on
damage.
your wires.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that would be hysterical. Especially like you
why is the
you
power
go back
plant not
in your
working?
ship.
You open it up and just crab jumps out at you.
Yeah. Oh god.
Star Citizen has suddenly become a horror game.
I would literally play with a catheter at that point, because there's no way. I had to pee myself. I'll be right back, chat.
All right. I guess it's my turn to do this. I will say, as I always say, I've been to plenty of conventions, even like car shows. No car show or convention is ever just cars. No convention, like a gaming convention, is never just games. It's like every single convention I've been to, car shows, gaming conventions, nerd conventions, there's always a recruitment booth. There is always a recruitment booth, because if it's a convention, you're guaranteed to get young people. If you're guaranteed to get young people, recruiters got quotas to make. So they're going to be there to try to use that as an example. So that's just an example. So you could have that at a convention. You obviously can't join, but you could have someone there who's like, hey, would you like to join? And to kind of try to chalk it up and all that kind of stuff. Give you all of the promises that will never be able to make it. You won't actually be able to sign up, but
they always have like food vendors. They always have like an artist's alley sort of thing.
Yeah. Artist's alley. You'd have various other like accessories. So like components and weapons, maybe space suits, you might have something like that. So like you need, beyond just the main hall, there needs to be some sort of like convention area, like area where you can go buy stuff, even like little souvenirs, like an RSI booth that sells you little squishy, little plushy auroras, something like that.
Yeah. Celebrity NPCs to take screenshots with. NPCs doing cosplay.
Yeah.
Like I want an NPC of, what is her name? Heidi something, who does all the amazing 3D prints. I want to see her and Diabolus in game, doing cosplay stuff.
Exactly.
That would be awesome.
Yes. Join the UE and get a Mustang at 27% APR.
Oh my gosh. The audacity of that accuracy.
I think that is the closest thing to the Challenger that we have. So in Star Citizen. So that is 100% on brand. But that's those sorts of things. And I know like this is asking for more work, but I know CIG wants more immersive, and they've got the like vendor AI down. If they could do it next year, if they could do that and have a little vendor alley with you can talk to people and just some canned lines, it would be a lot of work, but you would not have to do that work anymore, because once you've got it done, you can use it for all of the conventions you have from now on. So it's like a forward work. It's one of those things that CIG's been doing, which is get stuff done that we don't have to work on in the future, get it done and get it in the bank. That's something you could do. You don't have to work on that AI anymore. But obviously, other things got to happen too. And yes, as Q-Pan says, I'd love to see Jimmy just walking through the show floor. Like, is that Jimmy? Like, where's Wally? Where's Waldo? Like, there's the Jimmy. Where's Jimmy?
That'd be great.
Oh man, yeah, the amount of unhealthy attachment I have to Jimmy, like a book character. You can't hurt Jimmy. Don't do it to me, CIG. I won't make it.
Between last year and this year, yeah. Fall in love with Jimmy.
He's such a good character. I love people who call him Kirkland Stig, but like he's got so much more personality than Stig ever had. So, that I think overall it's been okay. It's definitely not for me because I've been to every single IAE, at the floor of every single IAE. I remember when it was just a giant hangar. They just put ships in a giant hangar and you walked around it. It was great. They could do more things to it. The sales are okay. And I think the last major one I was going to say is just the Jack stuff. I love it. More of it, please. But you could also do more than, like, the thing is, Jax is great. Don't get me wrong. But there are plenty of other things you could do, angles you could do with that sort of Whitley's Guide or that sort of, like, discussion thing. Yeah. The nerd in me, the lore nerd in me is like, you could have some sort of like documentary style thing that's going on that talks about the new ship that came out. You do like a 2-3 minute little snippet of like the history of this ship that just came out.
Like the Whitley's Guide in the jump points.
Yeah, like the
Whitley's we get that in game.
Yeah,
the Whitley's Guide and the jump points are multiple pages long of really great lore that is really impactful in the game, and it doesn't make it into the game.
It never makes it into the game, or barely even gets released to the public. Beyond some of them were written like 4 years ago and still haven't made it into like a post.
It would be cool if we could get like episodes of Whitley's Guide playing on like screens and stuff in the game.
In game,
that would be great.
Let's see what else I was going to say. You could also do things like there are plenty of references like Astromedics. Right, Astromedics is this long-running television or movie series about two people who crew a Apollo, and it's this action drama series of movies that's existed. Just film a couple of scenes of Astromedics and put it in the game.
Yeah,
it'd
be fantastic.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what they'll do with the commercial, the commercial for the Apollo when it comes out. It's just going to be a scene from Astromedics. But
I can't wait for the Apollo. I love the look of the Apollo. It looks fantastic.
So my headcanon, and I have no way of confirming if this is real or not, but I really think that Astromedics is heavily influenced and inspired by the old TV show Emergency.
Yeah,
that basically like pioneered EMS and paramedicine in the US. And when you read about it, you're like, oh my gosh, especially if you're in my line of work, you're like, yeah, this is totally this, but for Star Citizen. And I would totally love to see that. Because the original actors from Emergency show up to cons all the time for different things. Holy crap, you could have the original actors from the original Emergency series show up and do a signing at IAE, and sit at a booth,
stuff.
You go buy your little, in-game copy of the a magazine or the movie or whatever, and go have them sign it, and now you have it, to display in your ship. Yeah, Mantooth, Blue Z0887. I can never remember the guy's name. But his last name was something, is something Mantooth, the most ridiculous 70s name there ever was.
But I mean, things like that are nice little additions for videos. But the Jack stuff is great. It's perfect. It's character driven. It's totally Jack's. Everything has been Jax McCleary down to like him crashing everything.
Literally everything.
All the things. And I think he's getting a little bit of Flanderization because he doesn't actually crash that often, but I think he's just crashing a lot because it's Jax in the concept of Jax is doing, because he always like, oh, we used to do this in Whitley's Guide all the time. It's like, yeah, because you were in a closed track and you had people. You don't have people in Pyro Jax. Yeah.
What's the MSR video that we got the first 2 bits for and we're still waiting?
Reunion.
Yeah. When?
Yeah.
I need closure.
Yeah.
We haven't even met the Banu guy, and I already have unhealthy attachments
to Maz. Yeah, Maz is great. In the lore, in the stories, he's great. Maz he's a sarcastic hacker, which is the best part about Maz's personality. Banu hacker.
I have role played him in so many different TTRPGs. That character type.
Overall, I think it was good. I think we're the advantage of where we are is that it's not worse than it used to be. It's not better than it used to be, but it's slightly better and kind of on this even keel. So the only place they can go from here is up. And with the
if they go down, we have a big problem.
Yes.
Pitchfork.
I think we're on the ascent rather than the an even planar ascent rather than a downturn. And I don't see them being able to go down from here. But yeah, I think that's it. We're going to cover that because we've been an hour and 10 minutes talking about IAE, but it was good. That's what we needed to talk about. We'll move on to the question and answer session. If you're watching this after the fact, don't worry, because the question and answer session is going to be live already. If you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be right above Tree and his shiny head right there. Will be a little link that you can click, and you can go watch that question and answer session right now. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, it's already up ready for you to go. Just click right on over if you need to. But thank you to Tree. Make sure you go to Tree0311 at Tree0311 on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Astral Space Gemini on YouTube, and Twitch, or just Astral Gemini on Twitch and all sorts of things. And if you want to join us live, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern on Saturdays, come join us live and ask your own questions. We'd love to hear you here there. And as always, I want to hear your thoughts on all of this in the comments below on YouTube. And for those of you on Twitch, ask questions. We have the questions thing open. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.